Every political candidate or campaign should or must raise funds. 1, to spread their message, 2, to educate the voters, and 3, to motivate the voters. And with proper communications, get them to vote for you. So what are all the ways to raise funds for a political campaign? Where do you begin to raise funds? How much do you need? I want you all to know that there are only 7 areas that funds can be raised for political campaigns, mainly because of the heavily governed process by state and federal agencies, as well as local governments, as they should. They are guardians of transparency, which is important for a strong and healthy democracy. Also, before we begin the work in this episode, your budget should be completed. Without it, it would be like diving out of an airplane with no parachute. Or if you're doing a, let's see what we see, or we will get what we get, then you will be without strategy and planning, and you will not do well. We will be covering the following sources of every campaign: personal injection, loans, dialing for dollars, local businesses, PACs and service groups, vested and major donors, and 7, events and other tools. First is personal injection. Let's start here. I consider this section to be the most important source. And on a side note, I've listed each funding source in order of their importance to the campaign to help you focus on the areas of most important to achieve success. In the vetting episode, a couple of questions I asked was, how much do you plan on investing into your own campaign? Have you ever raised funds for a nonprofit before? And if so, how much, generally speaking? The answers give me several insights into more understanding of the works that I need to do to prepare the candidate. Do they have a clue about the budget that they need? Do they believe in themselves enough to invest? Do they understand the importance of the ask and its relationship to their personal injection? Do they understand the difference between raising for a nonprofit 501c3 and a nonprofit 501c4, which is a political PAC? With this said, there are a couple of areas that I need to focus on. You should think about your personal injection of 10 to 40%, no less. Also, all personal injections can and should be listed in your filings as loans, not donations. Not that you'll recoup the funds, but there is that possibility with the proper planning and management. It's important that all of those within your circle should know that you are doing this personal injection to start your campaign. It goes a long way with spirit, energy, and loyalty from your volunteers and your donors. And this is an important scenario because I want to try and make a point here. Let us say someone is asking you for a donation of $200 for their political campaign. Before you say yes, you ask them, how much of your own money are you putting in? You might even ask, what will you use it for? You can take the time to imagine how their response would make you feel about your ask. How would you sound if the tables were turned? The importance is that you understand, you plan, and prepare for your fundraising objectives. This is another question that I asked in the vetting questionnaire as well. What is your FICA score?
Still credit for life! Dude, I need the money.
So
right.
This is not a reflection of their personal image, but more specifically regarding their capability and potential management of public funds. Additionally, it also helps me gauging their potential to personally inject. You see, personal injection is not only about pulling funds from your savings, retirement account, or other backup funds. It can also be funding with a credit card or other loan form. Although it is important to remember that there must be some preparation before you use this form of injection. Second are loans. In addition to loans from yourself, let's talk about loans from others. From whom? How much? And what are the mechanics? I'll briefly cover the mechanics first. Your political filings have a beginning and an end date. During these dates, all of your financial activities need to be tracked and reported. In California, you'll do this on your 460 forms. At the end, you need to close any outstanding debts or file it as and keep it open. This means that a loan can be repaid in full or partially repaid. But regardless, the balance can be forgiven by the lender depending on the lender's written decision. You can clear the debt or keep some of it or all of it open. Be certain that you fully understand and research the laws in your area before you enter any of these loan transactions, and always be certain that you are in compliance. Let's talk about from whom are these lending tools best applied. Mainly from family and very close friends, because they represent an extension of the candidate. So can you get it from others? Sure, but that might have a negative political impact as your funds are public information. And based upon full transparency, the question that may arise are why, what did or do they want or even get from you? Third is dialing for dollars. This is probably one of the most well-known forms of fundraising for a campaign and the hardest for the candidate. There are several rules and formulas that I apply here. The ×3 rule is my favorite and is always a surprise to those needing to apply a dialing for dollars program. Here's a little anecdote that I think might shed some light on this subject. Have you ever been to medieval times in California or Nevada? You will know that you're seated in a section that has colored flags. Those flags represent your knights in battle. It's like a sports thing. Once you have your team, you'll root for them to win. The thing pretty much applies to your donors. Once they donate to you, you are their team to win. The basic rule of thumb here is that they will donate at the very least 3 times with the appropriate scripts and constant communications. My process for structuring the dialing for dollars system is simple. I provide a 7-column form and I have the candidate begin to list friends, families, and acquaintances. I then provide the script for the call and all the needed tools like remits or online donation areas. Typically, it takes 3 to 5 revisions before I say to the candidate, go, start calling. I can usually determine after the candidate completes their list how much they could generate. In a previous episode, I mentioned the emotional ups and downs in campaigns. This area is the candidate's Mount Everest to climb. Most of the time, once they started, it does become easier over time. Fourth are local businesses. Fundraising is not about cash donations only. It can be in the form of in-kind contributions as well. As an example, a restaurant might charge $250 to have an event at their place. They offer it to you without any charge. Well, that $250 is an in-kind donation and should be recorded in your filing as such. Of course, a good script or 5 or 1,000 would help. Not only can you raise funds, but you can also access so much more. Again, exposure being the very least. My favorites are local small restaurants, barbershops or beauty shops, and auto shops. These connections are always based on a personal contact with the respectable introduction. I can also sell a list of businesses within the district or whole city. For me, this is easy because I'm a list broker for U.S. businesses, consumers, voters, and elected officials. This potentially makes a connection with the local businesses and possibly their employees. Fifth is P.A.C and service groups. These areas have their positives and their negatives. What is paramount is the preparation of the speech, handouts, remits, and of course, the ask. Take political parties, political action. Sometimes they have funds and sometimes they do not have funds. But what they all have are volunteers, unions, political action committees. They all have funds. The only problem is that those funds sometimes come at the end of the campaign, which means that they are great for clearing debt. So don't discount them in your planning. There are other approaches to unions I use, but we need to keep this episode at a respectable time frame. Next are your service groups, Lions Clubs, Kiwanis. They usually do not have funds, but their target is their members. 6 are the vested, the major donors. Often the vested and the major donors are lumped together. The easiest way to locate the major donors is to research current and past 460s or financial filings for every well-funded campaign. You can locate the vested this way as well, but it's a little harder to do. I think that the biggest disappointment is if the candidate drinks the Kool-Aid. In other words, sells out to a bad actor from one of these groups. My final words on the subjects is always be aware of donors and consider your political choices carefully. And while I do not advise it, if you choose to employ your volunteers or your staff, this should be approached and considered carefully, as the responsible party in funding and fundraising is you, the candidate or the campaign. And 7 are events and other tools. Events represent bad math for me. Not that they're all bad, it's just that they always come with a price. Small events like neighborhood coffee clutches, these are where a supporter invites their neighbors to meet the candidate. Too much to unravel here, but most of the time the mistakes are miscalculating the cost of the events, like food, wine, etc. Also, if donated by the supporter, another mistake is not tracking these costs in your filings as an in-kind contribution. So be certain you are well organized for this. Large events. These events might cost upwards of 40 to 50%, not to mention the loss of so many volunteers and the time involved. It's important to focus on your cost and return before you go here. The biggest area of troubles I have run into is the selling of alcohol at large events. Learn, study, and know the process for this regarding political events. Other tools might consist of raffles, auctions, but never lose track of your filings and how you're organizing and reporting things. Additionally, you might be able to find or hire a professional political fundraiser, but they will need to charge no less than 10%, and often they will teach you what I have shown you here. Now, their benefit is that they are usually excellent and they will keep you on task and legal. Are there more? Oh, heck yeah. But most will cost, like email fundraising, text fundraising, etc. In today's technology, there is an abundance of those who wish to try and offer you new tools and technique. My advice is to simply keep a cautious posture, but an open mind. Is there more to fundraising? Yes, of course. It's my hopes that this will give you enough to create your own plan and outline for success. Did I cover everything? No, but feel free to reach out to me with my contact information below. Maybe I can help. If this was helpful, please hit the subscribe, like, and notifications. Please feel free to buy me a cup of coffee. Link is below. It would be greatly appreciated. So thanks for joining me. See you in the next episode of Marketing Options, a su servicio, which means in English, at your service, Jess Cervantes. Thank you.